My name is John Miller, and today was supposed to be one of the best days of my life. When I woke up in the morning, I immediately felt that luck was on my side. On my way to work, I turned all the traffic lights green, and when I got to the office, I found an empty parking space right in front of the entrance. When I entered the office, I noticed the staff smiling and nodding at me. I felt like I was on top of the world. As soon as I was settled at my desk, my secretary Natalie came into the office. "John, Tom Snelling is online too. He said it was urgent," she said with a smile. "Thank you, Natalie. I'll answer it now," I said, picking up the phone. "Good morning, Tom. How are you?" I said, trying to contain my excitement. "Good morning, John. I decided to sign a contract. We will cooperate," Tom replied. My heart started beating faster. It was a deal that I had been working on for almost 2 months, and it would bring the company over $6 million. "That's great news, Tom. Thank you for your trust. I am sure that our cooperation will be successful," I said, trying not to show excessive excitement. "You've already faxed the contract," Tom added. "Thank you. Thanks again, Tom. Have a nice day." I finished the conversation. After hanging up the phone, I almost ran to the fax machine and took a fresh contract. With the document in my hands, I headed to the office of my boss, Barry. "Good morning, John. What do you have?" Barry asked, looking at me over the top of his glasses. "I have great news, Barry. We just signed a contract with Tom Snelling for $6 million, I said, handing him the document. Barry took the contract and studied it carefully. Then his face broke into a wide smile. "John, you've done something that a lot of people haven't been able to do. This is a great victory for us. Your bonus will be huge," he said, putting the contract aside. "But that's not all. I want you to know that starting today you have been appointed Vice President of Sales. Congratulations." I was shocked. This promotion was my dream. "Thanks, Barry. I promise that I will justify your trust," I said, not believing my luck. Unsure of it. "And now, to the point. We have a problem with a large client in Dallas. You must fly there urgently and settle all the issues. My secretary Stella has already prepared all the details of the trip." Barry continued. "Understood. Thanks again, Barry," I said, heading for the exit. On the way to my office, I met Stella, Barry's secretary. "Hi, Stella. Barry said you have the details of the trip to Dallas." I said. "Yes, John. Here's your ticket and all the necessary information," she replied, handing me an envelope. "Thank you, Stella. I'll handle the rest of the arrangements myself," I said, accepting the envelope. Back in the office, I decided to call my wife Emily to share the good news. However, she wasn't there, and I left a message on her answering machine. "Hi, honey. I have great news for you. I'll call you back later. Love you." After packing my things, I headed home to quickly pack my bag for the trip to Dallas. My heart was light and joyful, and I did not suspect that soon this day would change my whole life. Returning home, I was still impressed by the events of that morning. Thoughts of a new contract, a promotion, and an upcoming trip to Dallas were running through my head. I felt that my life had finally gone down the right path. I was happy. As I drove up to the house, I noticed my wife, Emily's car parked in the driveway. It seemed strange to me because she was supposed to be at work. Leaving my car nearby, I got out and headed for the door. When I opened the door of the house, I immediately heard strange noises coming from the bedroom. My heart started pounding faster. I walked quietly down the hall, trying not to make a sound. The closer I got to the bedroom, the more distinct the sounds became. When I reached the door, I heard something that turned my world upside down. "Oh, God, yes. Take me, do it well." Emily's voice was full of passion and desire. The second lasted forever. I slowly opened the door and froze. My wife, Emily, was on the bed with her boss, Randall Clark. They were so engrossed in each other that they didn't even notice my presence. Everything was boiling inside me. I took my phone and took some photos to document this betrayal. My hands were shaking, but I tried to be as quiet as possible. After making sure that the pictures were clear, I quietly left the house. Outside, I got into the car and took a deep breath. My head was spinning with thoughts and emotions. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know where to start. Suddenly, an idea came to me. I went to the office where my wife and her boss Randall worked, knowing that his boss, Bart Simpson, was familiar to me and maybe could help. When I got to the office, Bart's secretary, Linda, looked up and smiled. "John, what brings you here?" "What is it?" she asked, apparently noticing my tension. "I need to talk to your boss, Bart, urgently." "It's important," I said, trying to stay calm. "Wait a minute, I'll ask," Linda replied, and called the internal phone. "Bart, John Miller is here. He says it's urgent." After a few seconds, she nodded and invited me to come through. "John, what happened?" Bart asked when I entered his office. "You look worried." "Bart, I've come to show you something." "This concerns your employees," I said, taking out my phone. I showed him the photos and his face turned pale. "When was this done?" "What is it?" he asked, looking at the pictures. "About half an hour ago." "In my house," I replied, barely able to contain my anger. Bart frowned and picked up the phone. "Linda, get Randall and Emily here," he ordered over the intercom. We waited in silence. Approximately 30 minutes later, my wife Emily and her boss Randall entered the office, both surprised and unsuspecting. "What's going on, Bart?" Randall asked, looking at me curiously. "John came to show me something. I think you should see this," Bart said, showing them the photos. My wife Emily's face paled and Randall froze in place. It's not what it seems," Emily began, but her voice was trembling treacherously. "Everything is exactly as it seems," I said quietly, holding back my anger. "You're both fired," Bart said firmly. "Pack your things and leave the office by the end of the day. And don't show up here anymore." Emily tried to say something, but Bart raised his hand to stop her. "No, Emily. We have nothing to talk about. Goodbye," he added. When they left, Bart turned to me. "John, I'm truly sorry. I did not know. What are you going to do about it?" he asked. "I'll file for divorce," I replied, feeling a wave of relief turn to determination. "I understand. If you need anything, tell me. And John, if you still want to work with our company after that, call me next week," Bart said. "Thanks, Bart. I will definitely get in touch with you," I replied, feeling like I had started a new chapter in my life. I left the office determined to move on and focus on the future, no matter how difficult it might be. After I saw what happened at my house and showed the photos to Bart, I knew I had to act decisively. Pain and anger mixed in my heart, and I knew that a difficult time was ahead. However, I had to discuss this with Barry, my boss, and decide how to move forward. I returned to my office, where my secretary, Natalie, met me. "John, you look like you've been hit by a truck." "Everything is fine," she asked with concern in her voice. "Natalie, I need to talk to our boss, Barry, urgently." "It's important," I said, trying to stay calm. She quickly contacted him on the intercom. "Barry, John wants to talk to you urgently." "Yes, he's here." "Okay, I'll pass it on." She looked at me and nodded. "Barry can see you. Come on in." I headed for Barry's office, feeling the tension build with every step. When I entered, I closed the door behind me and looked at my boss Barry. "John, what happened?" "You look like you've been through a disaster," Barry said, looking up from his paperwork. "Barry, I need to tell you what happened," I began, feeling my throat go dry. "Sit down, John." Tell me, he pointed to a chair in front of his desk. I sat down and took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. This morning, after all the good news, I returned home to pack my things for the trip to Dallas. When I arrived, I found my wife, Emily's car in the driveway. It was weird because she was supposed to be at work. I began. And what happened next? Barry asked, frowning. When I entered the house, I heard strange noises from the bedroom. I came over and saw my wife cheating on me with her boss, Randall Clark. I took some photos and immediately left the house, I said, showing Barry the photos on my phone. Barry looked at the pictures and his face paled. John, this is terrible. I'm so sorry. What are you going to do about it? What is it? He asked, pushing the phone away. I've already shown the photos to Bart Simpson. He immediately fired both my wife Emily and her lover Randall. I replied, it's good that Bart reacted so quickly. But how will this affect your work and our cooperation with Bart's company? Barry asked, clearly worried. Bart said that now that Emily no longer works there, he is ready to cooperate with us. He asked me to contact him next week, I explained. Barry nodded, thinking for a moment. This is a good sign. John, I understand that you are going through a difficult time right now, but you should know that we support you. If you need time to sort things out, take it. Your job is safe, he said, looking at me with understanding. Thanks, Barry. I appreciate it. But I think work is what I need right now to take my mind off all this, I replied, feeling a little relieved. I understand. If you need anything, feel free to contact me. And John, I'm proud of the way you're handling this situation. You're a real professional. Barry added, holding out his hand. Thanks, Barry. I will do my best to justify your trust, I said, shaking his hand. I left Barry's office feeling a little lighter. I knew that there were still many difficult moments ahead, but the support of colleagues and confidence in my work helped me to hold on. It was important not to lose heart and move forward, despite all the difficulties. I was sitting on a plane heading to Dallas and looking out the window, thinking about the latest events. My life changed dramatically in one day. From the happy news at work to the shocking discovery of my wife's infidelity, it all seemed unreal. However, I understood that I needed to move on. My career and future depended on how I handled this crisis. Upon arrival in Dallas, I headed to the hotel to get some rest before an important meeting with our client. My phone rang, and I saw that my friend and colleague, Mike, was calling. Hi, John. How are you? I heard about your promotion, Mike said as soon as I answered the phone. Hi, Mike. Thank you. But that's not the only news, I replied with a heavy sigh. What happened? What is it? He asked, worried. My wife Emily cheated on me. I caught her with her boss, Randall. I showed the photos to Bart, and he fired them, I said, trying to contain my emotions. John, I'm so sorry. How are you holding up? Mike asked, his voice full of sympathy. It's difficult, but I try to focus on my work. I'm in Dallas right now, dealing with our client, I replied. I understand. If you need help or just to talk, know that I'm always there, Mike said. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it, I replied, feeling supported. After hanging up the phone, I decided not to delay and contacted our client, Mike Thomas, because of whom I was traveling to Dallas to arrange a meeting. Hi, Mike. This is John Miller from Milestone Incorporated. Can we meet today to discuss our issues? I asked. Hi, John. Yes, of course. Let's meet in my office in an hour, he replied. Great, thanks. See you later, I said and began to prepare for the meeting. An hour later, I was at Mike Thomas's office. We discussed all the issues and came to an understanding. The meeting was successful, and I felt like a mountain was lifted off my shoulders. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation, Mike. I'm glad we were able to settle all the issues, I said, shaking his hand. And thank you, John. It is always a pleasure to work with professionals. If you need anything, feel free to contact us, he replied. When I returned to the hotel, I felt that the first step on the road to recovery had been taken. In the evening, I decided to call my lawyer to discuss the divorce process. I found the number on the internet and dialed it. "Hello, my name is John Miller. I need a divorce consultation," I said when the lawyer answered the phone. "Hello, John. I'm attorney Sarah Williams. We can discuss your situation in more detail. What exactly are you interested in?" "What is it?" she asked. "My wife cheated on me. I have photos confirming this. I want to file for divorce," I replied. "I understand. We can meet tomorrow morning to discuss all the details and start the process. Does this suit you?" she suggested. "Yes, of course. Thank you, Sarah. See you tomorrow," I said and hung up. The next day, I met Sarah at her office. We discussed all the details, and she began preparing the divorce papers. I felt like I was making the right move. When I returned to the office after my trip to Dallas, I felt ready to start a new chapter in my life. My colleagues greeted me with smiles, and I felt their support. "Hi, John. How was your trip?" my secretary Natalie asked when I entered the office. "Everything went well, thank you. We've settled everything with the client," I replied, smiling. "This is great news. By the way, Barry would like to talk to you when you have time," she said. "Okay, I'll go to him now," I replied and headed for Barry's office. "Joan, come in," Barry said when he saw me. "How'd it go?" "The meeting was successful. We have settled all the issues with the client," I replied. "Great. I'm glad to hear that. And once again, I want to say that we all support you. You're doing a great job, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of success ahead of you," Barry said, holding out his hand. "Thanks, Barry. I appreciate your support," I replied, shaking his hand. I returned to my desk, feeling that despite all the difficulties, I was on the right track. My work, friends, and the support of my colleagues helped me move forward. I knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in my life, full of opportunities and changes.